In the early 19th century, America was a place of big dreams and harsh realities. It was a time when women were expected to stay at home, care for their families, and never dare to step into professions reserved for men. Medicine, in particular, was one of those fields. The idea of a woman becoming a physician wasn't just rare, it was considered outrageous. But in this world of rigid expectations, one woman dared to imagine something different. Elizabeth Blackwell didn't just want to be a doctor, she became one. The first woman in the history of the United States to earn a medical degree. And her story isn't just about becoming a doctor, it's about breaking barriers, inspiring generations, and changing the world of healthcare forever. Let's go back to where it all began. Chapter 1. Humble Beginnings. Elizabeth Blackwell was born on February 3, 1821, in Bristol, England, into a large and supportive family. She was one of 9 children. Her father, Samuel Blackwell, was a sugar refiner, a man with progressive ideas. He believed in education for his daughters at a time when most families did not. Her mother, Hannah, was warm, strong, and devoted to her children. From a young age, Elizabeth was intelligent, curious, and independent. She loved reading and exploring ideas. But even as a child, she was aware that her opportunities were limited simply because she was a girl. That didn't sit right with her. When Elizabeth was 11, her family faced financial difficulties. In search of a better life, the Blackwells immigrated to New York City. Soon after arriving, tragedy struck. Her father passed away, leaving the family struggling to survive. Elizabeth, her mother, and her siblings had to work hard to keep the household going. While many girls her age would have accepted a quiet, traditional life, Elizabeth began to dream of something more. She didn't know exactly what that was yet, but she knew she was meant for something bigger.
Chapter 2. An Unlikely Calling. Interestingly, Elizabeth never planned to become a doctor. In fact, the idea of studying medicine initially disgusted her. At the time, medical schools weren't welcoming places. Many were considered morally questionable, and women were completely excluded. But everything changed when Elizabeth visited a friend who was dying of uterine cancer. This friend told her something that would alter the course of her life. "Elizabeth, I wish I could have been treated by a lady doctor. Perhaps I would have been spared some of the embarrassment I've suffered." That one sentence planted a seed in Elizabeth's heart. She realized that there was a need for women doctors, not just for medical treatment, but for compassion, dignity, and understanding, things women of that time were often denied. Elizabeth decided that she would become that doctor, not because it was easy, not because it was acceptable, but because it was necessary. Chapter 3. A World Against Her. Once Elizabeth made her decision, the real battle began. She started applying to medical schools across the United States. One after another, her applications were rejected. Some schools ignored her entirely. Others sent letters explaining that a woman in medicine was unthinkable. One letter even said, "You are intellectually capable, but your presence would be inappropriate and impossible to accommodate." But Elizabeth didn't give up. She studied privately, reading medical books and attending lectures whenever she could. She worked as a teacher to support herself financially, saving every penny to pay for her education. She applied to 29 medical schools and received 29 rejections. But then, something unexpected happened. Chapter 4. The Door That Opened. In 1847, Elizabeth applied to Geneva Medical College in New York. The faculty didn't know what to do with her application, so they decided to let the male students vote. assuming they'd reject her and save everyone the trouble. But the students thought it was a joke. They voted yes, believing she'd never actually show up. They were wrong. When Elizabeth Blackwell walked into Geneva Medical College, every man in that room realized this wasn't a joke. This was history in the making. Her first day was brutal. Some students mocked her. Professors ignored her. She wasn't allowed to participate in certain medical demonstrations because it was considered inappropriate for a woman. But Elizabeth didn't break. She stood tall, studied harder than anyone else, and slowly earned the respect of those around her. She proved that intelligence, courage, and determination know no gender.
Chapter 5: Breaking Records and Making History. Elizabeth worked tirelessly, often studying alone because no one wanted to work with her. She faced countless humiliations but refused to give in. On January 23, 1849, Elizabeth Blackwell graduated first in her class, becoming the first woman in America to receive a medical degree. She didn't just pass, she excelled. When she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the room fell silent. Many still didn't approve, but no one could deny her achievement. Elizabeth had done something no woman had ever done before. She shattered a wall that had stood for centuries. Her achievement made headlines across the country and even across the Atlantic. Some celebrated her, others criticized her fiercely, but either way, no one could ignore her. Chapter 6: The Fight Wasn't Over. Graduating was only the beginning. Elizabeth quickly discovered that earning a degree and practicing as a doctor were two very different battles. No hospital in the United States would hire her. She was told, "No patient will trust a woman doctor." Even when she traveled to Europe to continue her studies, she faced prejudice and disrespect. Some hospitals refused to let her treat patients. Others forced her to train separately from male doctors. But Elizabeth kept moving forward. She eventually gained clinical experience at hospitals in Paris and London. There, she specialized in treating women and children, patients who often felt neglected by the male-dominated medical world. During her training, Elizabeth suffered a tragic accident. While treating a patient with an eye infection, contaminated fluid splashed into her left eye, causing a severe infection. She eventually lost sight in that eye and could no longer pursue surgery. But she didn't give up. She simply changed her path, focusing on public health and women's medical education instead. Chapter 7: Building a Legacy. In 1851, Elizabeth returned to New York City with a vision to create a place where women could receive medical care and where female doctors could train and work. She opened a small clinic to serve poor women and children, patients who were often turned away from other hospitals. But even then, she faced ridicule. Some newspapers called her clinic a quack shop. Some male doctors mocked her efforts. But her clinic grew. Patients trusted her, and soon other women were inspired by her courage. In 1857, along with her sister Emily Blackwell, who became the third woman in the U.S. to earn a medical degree, Elizabeth co-founded the New York Infirmary for Indigent Women and Children. This hospital was revolutionary. It provided affordable medical care to the poor and offered female doctors and nurses a place to learn and work with dignity. Elizabeth wasn't just practicing medicine, she was building a system that would change opportunities for women forever. Chapter 8: Educating the Future. Elizabeth understood that real change wouldn't come from a single achievement. It had to come through education, through creating opportunities for the women who would follow in her footsteps. So, in 1868, she established the Women's Medical College of the New York Infirmary, a medical school run by women for women. Here, young women were taught not only medical science, but also the courage to stand against the odds. Elizabeth trained a generation of women who would go on to serve as doctors, public health leaders, and reformers around the world. Her work also extended to fighting for better hygiene, sanitation, and public health reforms. She believed that medicine wasn't just about treating disease, it was about preventing it and improving quality of life for all.
Throughout her life, Elizabeth Blackwell never stopped speaking up for what she believed in. She gave lectures, wrote books, and used her voice to demand equality and justice. She said, "It is not easy to be a pioneer, but oh, it is fascinating. I would not trade one moment, even the worst, for all the riches in the world." Her bravery inspired countless women to pursue careers in medicine and other fields once close to them. Women like Mary Edwards Walker and Rebecca Lee Crumpler followed paths she had helped clear. Elizabeth's story is proof that one voice, one person, one act of courage can change everything. Chapter 10. Later Life and Legacy. In her later years, Elizabeth moved to England, where she continued to work for medical education and women's rights. Even when her health began to decline, her passion never faded. She passed away on May 31st, 1910, at the age of 89. But her legacy lives on in every hospital, every classroom, and every female doctor who ever dared to dream. Today, her name is remembered not just as the first female doctor in America, but as a trailblazer, a woman who refused to accept no as an answer.
Elizabeth Blackwell's story is more than just history. It's a blueprint for courage. She faced rejection 29 times. She was mocked, excluded, and underestimated, but she never stopped believing in her mission. Every time you visit a hospital where female doctors and nurses work proudly, every time a woman raises her voice to follow her dream, it's a ripple of the wave Elizabeth Blackwell created more than 170 years ago. She didn't just open a door, she kicked it wide open. And that is what true leadership looks like. If this story inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more powerful stories of legends who changed history. Remember, it only takes one brave voice to change the world.